Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, with my progress going through, or getting to know, I should say, getting to know the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, or excuse me, the Enchanted Forest. Need to get that right because there is that other deck, which I think is the Forest of Enchantment. Anyway, the Enchanted Forest. The Forest of Enchantment, yes. The actual deck, here it says the Enchanted Forest, but the actual deck is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. So no wonder. Yes, I'm having problems. It's because there's a difference on the book than on the box. In any case, thus far, I have not played with the cards. We're going to do that here a little bit. But I've been reading the book, and the book is just delightful. I mean, it's very hug deck material, very much hug deck material as far as I'm concerned. I don't even care about the negative cards. It's just very hug deck material, and I can just feel that it's going to be one where I don't care if I don't use it very much. It's a hug deck. But I will say this, it's not necessarily fluffy. Although, I have to say that I don't know that the experience I'm having with it is anything that anybody else would have. I think it's one of those things where the moment is just sort of right. And that is, she has her book arranged by number. So, for example, this is the threes, and so she has all of the 3 cards grouped together. And then she has all of the 4 cards grouped together for each suit. And that ends up, as she has done it, and perhaps as others have done it too. I'm not a big reader of guidebooks. I can see how she has treated the numbers within the suits as a journey also, which I think is totally appropriate and is the way I tend to view them as well. But I feel like I've benefited from reading her descriptions and thinking about how my view of things might be different. In some respects, I've kind of leaned toward her interpretation of the numbers that phase within a suit. So I feel like I've gotten some enlightenment in that regard, in terms of how each suit is its own progression through a journey or through a process. So I've really appreciated how she's done this and how it is intersected from my own thinking in that regard, and has led me to some new thinking in that regard. So I've really enjoyed reading this book. And I'll just give the example since I'm here at the threes. It says, generally speaking, well, let me start with this. All right, so she says that the aces are allies. Let me get to the aces. Each ace offers you a magical ally, a helpful companion as you journey through the Forest of Enchantment. Okay, so that's an ally. It's not about anything necessarily, except the allies generally give gifts. The twos, you could say that the twos are really the first cards of the minor arcana, because this is where the stories start. Each of the twos shows what you need to do first to do well with that particular suit. So if you're the suit of challenges, the raven is your so I take this when she says what you need to do in order to do well with this suit as meaning like a preparation. So if the Raven is your ally, then the Two of Challenges says know yourself. So in order to prepare yourself for a journey within the suit of challenges, you need to know yourself. So it's an interesting setup. And so the threes are, generally speaking, the energy of odd-numbered tarot cards tend to be more active or creative than even-numbered cards. The threes move the energies you met in the twos in a chosen direction for good or ill. So I almost think of that as like the kind of your first challenge. As I put it in my own words here, the threes are an action needed for empowerment. In a reading, they equal something weak that needs strengthening. And that comes in part from my reading her descriptions. And then when she gets to the nines, I'm not quite finished with the book yet. I'm in the what she calls the forest folk, which would be the court cards. And I know other decks. I think it was the Psychic Tarot for the Heart that didn't have tens. They considered the nines to be the end of the number system. And so here it says, nines, although the tens are technically the final cards in the minor arcana, the nines are really where things wrap up. The nines are the culminating cards for each suit. The most empowerment, the most desirous, the most fearful, the most contented. And then for tens, she describes them thusly. The tens take the culminating energy of the nines and turn them up one more notch for better or worse. Empowerment becomes burnout, that would be the wands, and fears become a terrible reality. Okay, so that would be like swords. So, wishing the Nine of Cups leads to bliss, and contentment is enhanced by community. So that would be the 10 Pentacles. So interesting perspectives, and I really enjoyed it. But I haven't played with the actual cards much, except for just flipping through them once. And I did the prior reading to start my monthly getting to know you phase. Whoops, where did I put it? With this deck. And as I was reading the majors in this deck, and even the front matter, which has less to do with the deck and more with just how to read, I see this deck now as a deck about journeys or projects. So I'm not sure that I would use it for everyday things like a daily draw, what's happening today, because most of my days are pretty prescribed. There isn't really a journey, so to speak, that I'm going through. So to me, this would be more a deck to pull out for when there's a project that needs to be undertaken. In everyday life, it could be something like, you've decided to sell your house. There's a variety of steps there, and it would just be good to have some insight into what's ahead of you. Certainly in a work environment, although the fantasy nature of this doesn't seem to lend itself to a work environment, if you're starting a major project, if you're so lucky as to have more than one job offer, looking into how, what the journey would be like for each opportunity that you have to help you make a choice between the two. Yeah, so that's how I'm seeing this deck so far. And as I was seeing it that way, I thought, well, I don't have a lot of new things going on, if anything, because of the coronavirus. some things that had been started are falling off, are not going to happen. But there is the journey of the coronavirus itself, dealing with it. You know, the social changes that are going on because of it, etc., etc. And then I realized, as I thought about that, I thought, well, the cards I pulled last week when I started this exploration of this deck seemed to speak an awful lot about the coronavirus and the changes coming up, because what I asked the deck was, why should I enter the enchanted forest? And what did I get? But the Hermit, which I love anyway. So it's one of those things where, you know, if the images just take me away and I'm into fantasy land, but really, we are now in enforced hermit mode, right? So that even my hermity self is having some difficulty, not from loneliness, but because I'm not very good at planning everything I need. And yeah. So that's why I needed to enter forest, saying you need to do this. And then the experiences I should seek there. So I'm supposed to seek the toad, who will give me gifts. And this is the Ace of Boons, so it's like the Ace of Pentacles. So it could even be, you know, seeking the help that I need during this time. And the protection, so it could be, because this is supposed to be a ring that guards against poison. So, you know, that would be making sure that I've got my medicinals, which I did actually. I didn't stock up on toilet paper. I got things that would normally use for a cold. And I didn't stockpile them maybe as much as I should. Maybe that's why it's saying this. But I wanted to leave it for other people when they realized finally what they really should be buying. So yeah, there is this, and I've run into this already in terms of challenges. So, and maybe I'll talk about that either in a separate video or at the end of this one, either way. This news coming in, news coming in, news coming in. Yes, I'm not an obsessive news watcher, but usually once a day, whether morning or evening, I will watch some news, specifically regarding the coronavirus. And then, I don't know if we can call him Mr. Coronavirus. He is the 5 of challenges. So there he is. But this is supposed to be the experiences I should seek in the forest, and I didn't get any. So I don't know. Maybe he can be turned into a helper. I don't know. Or maybe this just an encounter with this character, assuming that you escape, helps you learn from it. So I thought, all right, well, I'm going to return to the deck, and I'm just going to ask it kind of what my journey is going to look like. What is my journey going to look like? And what I'm going to do, I think we're going to start with this. We're going to start with, these were poppers as I was shuffling. And then I'm going to pull some from the top, and maybe I'll look closely at the first few, or if I pull a bunch, then, you know, I'll just give the overall vibe that it's giving me, you know, in terms of the journey, and not obsessing about the specific meaning of each card. but it strikes me again, just given the character of this particular deck, and we're going on a journey, right? And to me, let me show it. Well, all this, do we have the end? The world card is like this stag. So there's this stag who seems to be inviting you into the forest. That's your Fool card. And then the end is the stag kind of showing you out the other side of the forest. So to me, if I'm going through a journey and I'm wanting to know what my journey is going to look like, then like the full scope of the journey, what it's going to look like, then to me, I should pull cards until I come to that world card. Because to me, that's a card signifying that you're coming out the other end of the forest. So let's just take a look at these two. To me, this card is a little bit ambiguous because, in part because I could see this as being the coronavirus, the onslaught of the coronavirus, and, you know, having to hold your own against it. Or I could see the dragon as the coronavirus and the community trying to keep it at bay. I can kind of see it either way. So I'm not gonna go any further with that at the moment. And then the Weaver of Challenges. These are supposed to be protective thorns. They look like climbing roses, maybe. That she is creating as a barrier around herself. So surely this is like a reiteration of the Hermit card to protect oneself, to isolate and protect. So this might even just be a card about not going out. So the story behind this in the guidebook the story about this in the guidebook is that this is a young dragon, or not dragons, they're wyverns in this deck, that has gone out and stumbled upon a bunch of, I can't remember if these are supposed to be dwarves, and finds itself in a little bit of a predicament, you know, that it's unprepared for. So maybe this is a card about preparation, but again, it can be a card about kind of not going out. So it's almost saying here, between these two cards and the Hermit card, just don't go on a journey. But there is a journey, because I do have to go out and do things. And so I'll give you an example now. I'll do the little interlude, the coronavirus interlude, which is that I've had this hawking sort of a thing I've had to do, this throat clearing thing I've had to do, gosh, for probably over a week now. I don't associate it with coronavirus. I associate it with allergies. And unfortunately, now that we're back in some warmer weather and I'm having to run my heat pump, so my cooling system, it's using my vents, which have been in my duct system, which has been sitting dormant all winter because I've been using gas heat. And I think that that's blowing up a lot of crap, a lot, you know, and I've got dust mite allergies, and that system needs to be sucked out. It needs to be cleaned out. and I haven't had the money for that. I'm hopeful that within a couple of months I will have saved up enough money, and that will probably be high on my list of first major things to spend it on. It's also the height of, I can't say it's the height of, we're approaching the height of the spring pollen season. You know, when I went out this week, I had to use windshield wipers to clear the pollen off of my windshield, you know. So to me, it's partly that as well. But there are difficulties in determining when you're experiencing symptoms. Are they merely allergies at this point? You know, I'm in the south of Alabama, so certainly not the entire USA is not an allergy season yet. But you know, is it merely allergies? Is it, yesterday I wanted to go and get dog food. I knew I need dog food. I wanted to do it before the weekend because I could end up with no dog food on the shelves. And I was wise because there was only one bag of dog food left, of the type that I normally feed my dogs. But I woke up feeling like crap. It got somewhat better during the day, you know, drinking tea and just trying to do things that weren't terribly demanding. But it was starting to feel like it was in my throat, like I was starting to battle a sore throat. And so the question becomes, all right, am I just getting an everyday, is this just the allergies? Is this just a heightening of the allergies? Or is this, because that can potentially give a sore throat and a headache? Or is it just an everyday cold that my body is suddenly fighting an everyday cold? Because, you know, before we had the full coronavirus scare, the end of February, my chiropractor had clearly been sick and had the sniffles one time when I was there. A vet missed a day of work, and I had to see him the next day because of my dog's condition. And he was slightly sniffly, so he'd had something. He was sick the day before. And then I took a table to a church, to the pastor of a church, and I just was stupid. I mean, it was a Sunday. I thought surely he'd be up and about. It was a Sunday or a Saturday. It just didn't occur to me that he would be down. But I clearly, you know, there was somebody at the door that I didn't even approach. I just saw them on the porch and said, hey, I have a table for whoever. And they said, well, I'll go get him. And it was taking a long time to go get him. And I thought, well, crap. And when he showed up, he clearly had been sleeping. And possibly, although I don't know, not well, and I didn't have very much to do with him. You know, the table's long. So, you know, I don't know that we ever were within 3 feet of one another. So I was exposed to a number of people who probably just had an everyday cold. And so some of them are a little, I would say, you know, it's a stretch. You know, usually if you're going to get a regular everyday cold from somebody, you get it within 14 days, I think. But, you know, who knows? And that was the thing. It's like, who knows? And so I'm feeling like crud. I need to go out to get dog food. And I'm trying to figure out how, at that point, it was less about contracting it, because I might have already contracted it, as, you know, trying to not spread it. And so, you know, I went, was it in the, I went over lunch. I went over my lunch break. And went to the store, and I took my checkbook, which I don't normally carry a checkbook, but I thought, you know what? If I'm writing a check with my own pen, that's a heck of a lot better than touching the stupid keypad. And it's like, why can't we adjust and do something different? You know, why haven't they caught on that these keypads are little disease centers? But anyway, and you know, I take a disinfectant wipe with me. I've got them in my car, so you know, I disinfected my hands even before I went into the store while I was sitting in my car. Then I went and got the dog food, went up with my checkbook. I actually had most of the check written out before I went up to the counter, figuring that that would minimize my time in front of the checkout person. And then when she took my check, it turns out that they require a signature through the pad thing. Now, you don't have to do the number pad, which is the worst part of it. You just have to use the stylus. And I didn't say anything, because that was another way that I was preventing myself from spreading it, is I wasn't going to speak. There's no reason for me to speak. But that just about broke it. It was just like, I felt like saying, you're kidding me. I'm trying to avoid exposing you. But in any case, I just used the stylus. Then I went out to my, you know, took stuff out. When I was finished with the cart, I got the disinfectant wipe, and I went over the bar that you push the cart with, and that was that. So it was, but it's just frustrating to not know. Today I feel better than I did yesterday. So I'm assuming that whatever it was I was trying to get yesterday was not the coronavirus. And I'm still going to do some things that I normally do when I assume that I'm fighting a cold. I don't think that I've kicked it just with one day, but yeah, it was just so frustrating, not knowing whether I even needed to take the precaution, then the precaution kind of falling apart a little bit, and just, it's just all stupid, right? You would think we would be able to do better, but we're not, and so we will deal with the results. All right, let's take a look. 9 of Spells. Yep. So more guardianship here. You know, she's casting a spell around herself. So it's definitely, I've got tons of messages to do that at this point, right? Okay, so this is, and I am doing this. If you think of her as seeking herbs, that strikes me as encouragement. I've got a bunch of echinacea tea. I've just got various things, just like many people do. Well, this is a curious card to come up. You know, the Lovers is often about choices. It could even just be about limiting your contact to a chosen few. You know, this could be my animals, me and my animals. It's about making choices. Yeah, so I'm going to take it that way. Oh goodness. The 3 of Challenges. Who or what is going to be left behind, and who is having to do the leaving? This could be recognition of the pain of parents during this time. So I'm in my mid-50s, but I am a child of parents who are in, well, one's in, I would say, his mid-80s and one is in her early 80s. And, you know, I did have a conversation, you know, talking about things that we were doing and stuff. And my mom felt it was necessary to say that, oh, well, if I got it, maybe I was just telling her that I fully expected to get it. And I do. I mean, because I do have to go out and do things. I do have somebody who is willing to help, but that exposes that person to the coronavirus and the two people in his family. And it's like, I appreciate them because it was his wife that called and said, you know, my husband's going out and about all the time if you need anything. And it's like, well, I just don't want to feel guilty. But my mom kind of said to me, you know, honey, and of course I knew this already. My mother has declared that she can't travel. I don't know, it's been 2 or 3 years now. We can't come and help you if something, you know, if you do catch it. And it's like, I know, Mom. I know. So this may be just about acknowledging that. So I see this almost more as, you know, helping parents not feel bad. That's how I'm taking it. Oh, the hoarding, the hoarding. So this isn't a happy card to see. Some of this might be telling me some of the past, but I mean, to me, this indicates there might be yet more hoarding going on, which I was hoping not. I was hoping we might be over that. All right, the Weaver of Spells. So I'm not sure what, I haven't gotten to the Weavers yet in my book. So I'm going to look just briefly at what she is indicating here. It says, summons power from within and directs it toward her purpose. Magic rises from her body and swirls around her. Well, this might speak to more shamanic journey work and energy work. So it might be saying, this might be saying, just do that, Jennifer. The Huntsman, another card of protection and justice in protection. This is kind of, you know, what is, who or what is worth guarding and saving and what is not. I mean, the Huntsman does have a bow, and, you know, it's a little difficult for me sometimes when I see the Huntsman as justice. You know, I know, you know, the story, and I can't remember what deck that was from, maybe from the Wildwood, of the huntsman that was, you know, unjustly killed and so haunted the forest ever after. But, you know, the huntsman is in there to kill, you know, so, you know, the huntsman does also kill things. So it's a bit of a strange card for justice. If you show in there this person gently, you know, nurturing or protecting the doe and the fawn, but with the expectation that he might be killing the buck. You know, so it's some interesting energies there. The Child of Challenges. think before you act is essentially the meaning of that card. And the Seeker of Visions, which I'm just getting into this area. So I'm now going to, and then the Weaver of Visions. So we're getting into more people here, or advice regarding people. So I'm just going to flip through now and see how far I have to go to get to the other side. Oh, and there's Black Shuck. And there we are. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Oh no, this is the beginning. Oh my gosh, I need the other end. I need the other end, not the beginning. There's the end. So what I'm going to do in my own time is I'm going to go through this set of cards. This might be the fall. A renewal in the fall, because this is a respite. The Four of Challenges is like the Four of Swords. So this might, because they say that in the fall we're going to have another, and you know, this is supposed to be another card of keeping to yourself. But that it's supposed to come back again in the fall. And yep, and more staying to yourself. But then there's the Enchanter, and then we're done. So I would almost take this as that the vaccine or some sort of drug that battles it, and then we're out the other side. Oh, but we have Black Shuck. This is the Death card before we reach here. Even though, and it's between the rest and the starlight. Oh, it's one of those things where you just kind of think, should I just not look? Should I just not look? Because there's likely to be something bad in there that I don't want to have to face. Is there anything in there, speaking of grim realities, one of the, well, it could be the Eight of Owls that I got, or no, yeah, it's the Eight of Owls in my initial reading, which is that I am not prepared to die. We're going to get really grim here. You know, I've realized I don't intend to die. I don't, but you know, some people are dying from this, and so I need to wake up to the reality a little bit more, and make some plans, and most of the plans have to do with my animals, and so I'm trying to do that, and making sure I've got my ducks in a row should I expire. And you know, and I'm doing this obviously too late. It's just that for the most part I've never seen myself as having ducks I need to even get in a row, you know, just take it all to the mission store, invite them in, let them gut the place. There isn't much here that is of particularly high value or that others would want. And you know, I just need to make sure that that a few key people know where certain things are, and what the best path is for resolving any issues. But anyway, yeah, so there we go. All right, everybody, take care and see you again soon. Bye-bye.